when you go to score your dough and you take it out of the fridge after it's cold proofing and it spreads out and you don't know what to do about it, these are some of the reasons that's happening and what you can do to stop that happening. Now, first of all, if it does spread out, it's nothing to do with the cold proofing at all, unless you've left it in the fridge for like 2 weeks. So as you can see, my dough there is not going anywhere. I've taken it out and it's staying exactly as it should. So if it starts to spread and moves out, there are a number of things going on there. So the first one is it could be the flour that you're using. When you use a very high protein flour, it holds the dough together better. It just does. And it doesn't matter what you say, if you're getting good loaves with this flour, with that flour, if you use a high protein one, you will get a dough that stays together better. The next thing is your proofing. So if it instantly starts to flatten out, that means that you've overproofed your dough. Now, there's a very, very long explanation about what that means, or a very short one. So I'll tell you the short one, and it's not scientifically correct, but it's a way to help you understand. So basically, when we proof our sourdough dough, what we're trying to do is create a gluten structure within that. If we underproof it, we haven't created that lovely gluten structure and the dough just stays really solid and really hard, which is why you then end up with quite a gummy loaf because it hasn't done anything. And it's basically just like baking a flour and water paste. It hasn't really done anything, which is why you end up with that gummy, quite tough loaf. If you prove it correctly, like this one here is, what you end up with is the perfect combination of things that have gone on inside the dough, which means that it's held together, it's going to rise in the oven, and it's going to do everything that it should be doing. But if we overproof it, that bit has happened, and then the gluten structure starts to break down and it's got nothing to hold it together anymore, which is why it collapses, and then it goes in the oven and it doesn't rise because there's nothing left. It's used everything up, it's used up all its energy, the gluten structure isn't there, and it just collapses. So there are a couple of things that you can try. Now, I know that I recommend putting it in the freezer for 30 minutes before we put it in the oven while the Dutch oven's heating up, but that is not going to save that. If you've got an overproof loaf, putting it in the freezer for 30 minutes is going to achieve nothing. All the freezer bit does is it sort of like crisps up the outside layer so that when we go to score it, it just means that you can get a cleaner score on it. And it just means that then when it comes out the oven, it just kind of looks a bit better, and you can get a better split on it and a better rise in terms of the split and how actively it then creates the rise within that split. So that's all that's achieving. It doesn't affect the actual proofing in any capacity. So if that's what you're finding, think about the flour and think about the proofing. How do you know that your dough has finished proofing? Find a tool that works for you. There's loads of them to know that it's at the optimum place for the bulk fermentation to have been completed. So you'll see when I cut into this, it just cuts really beautifully. Now, lots of people ask me, how deep do you cut? Well, I do mine really, really deep, to be honest. And it just means that I get a really beautiful rise. A lot of people sort of tickle the top. I don't. I go right in. You will find that as you start to cut it, that you might see a little bit of movement within the dough. That's because we just opened it up. So of course now, what was holding it together there starts to just kind of go, that's fine, all right? It will go in the oven and it will rise beautifully.